Hello, I'm Sarah Devlin. I am the founder and the director of Women in Wildlife Photography, and I am also a professional wildlife photographer. And we're here today to talk about a very special safari that we are doing next August to Botswana. This is, of course, going to be a wildlife photography tour, like all of our tours, but we're going to talk today about what really makes this one special, and that is that this is a soul safari. So I have a very special guest here with me today that is going to be with us on the safari. I will be leading the safari, and I'm going to be working with Robyn Sheldon, who is here with us. And she is going to be addressing the soul part of the safari. So this safari does have all of the aspects of a photography safari. We'll be doing 2 game drives a day. There is just an abundance of wildlife in Botswana, so there will be no shortage of wildlife photography. But we're going to talk about one of my passions, one of my big passions, and that is mindful photography. And we will be practicing that while we were on this safari. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's something that it's actually the reason that I got into photography. So we'll get into that a little deeper. But right now, I'd like to introduce to you our very special guest, Robyn Sheldon, who is going to be with us on the safari and helping us with the soulful part. So, Robyn, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Thank you for inviting me to come and chat with you today. Um, so I live in the Okavango in Botswana. The Okavango is an inland water a delta with water draining from a large river in Angola into the middle of Botswana and then seeping into the sands and disappearing. And so Botswana is sort of hot and quite dry, and then you get this amazing fertile piece of land with abundant wildlife, and it's really extraordinary and very, very unspoilt, actually. So one of the reasons why I live there is because I do something called soul integration work, and I just find that it's the work is assisted by being in such a immensely, I suppose, healthy and powerful kind of place in nature. And so people come there, and immediately the sort of stresses of busyness and very structured thinking and kind of like needing to get from A to B, etc., all the time, sort of naturally drops away and leaves us all kind of open to being able to do the most beautiful exploration into the kind of sense of ourselves as human, as these extraordinary kind of miraculous beings that have so many incredible layers of insight and wisdom and understanding that is very much mirrored by being in nature. Nature kind of can reflect that back to us all the time.
Yes, yes, it's very, very healing. And before we go any further, I want to tell you that what you just talked about is the entire reason why I got into wildlife and nature photography. Um, Personally, I suffer from anxiety, and I have something called panic disorder. And many, many years ago, I started just taking walks in nature. And I found it so restorative and so grounding, that and it really it healed me. It really,
Mm.
I can honestly say it healed me. Um, and it motivated me to pick up a camera and to start taking photos of all of these wonderful things that I was seeing that in normal everyday life I wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't even, because I was so in my head with with other things and, my life and raising three children and a job and all of that. But I found that when I really, really slowed down and was just walking in nature and looking at all of these gorgeous things, I wanted to record it. And I found that when I was noticing these, let's take birds, for example, because it's a favorite subject of mine. Um, I found that when I started taking photos of birds, I would notice all of these beautiful details about them that
Mm.
are honestly miraculous. And that spilled over into my life because I thought, well, there's miracles all around us. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not slowing down enough. I'm not in the moment enough to be seeing it. And that
Mm.
really, really transformed my life. And that's what made me a photographer. And I think it makes you a better photographer. And that's something that we will be doing on this tour. So we're going to be doing a lot of mindfulness. Like I said, this is a photography tour. We're going to be doing 2 game drives a day. It's everything a grand safari has to offer in Botswana. And Botswana is a beautiful country and so much wildlife. But most safaris are a very, very hurried experience. Get to the lion, get there and and snap a photo. But I find that when I really slow down and really look at my subject and what it is that makes them so beautiful, I take more beautiful photos. So that's my point of view. What Robyn is going to be assisting us with is getting into that mindful state. Um, Go ahead, Robyn.
I wanted to just add to what you have been saying around taking more beautiful photographs when you're mindful. I think that it has the flip effect as well, in that when you are taking photographs, it puts you into a place of needing to slow down in order to be able to see more deeply and create beautiful photographs. So you're creating a more beautiful sense of yourself and a more beautiful sense of yourself in relation to the world around you and your environment through photography, in the same way as you might do it through meditation or something like that. I think that photography in and of
It
itself
is a meditation.
is
Yes.
a very beautiful way to access those deeper states of being. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely is a meditation. And I hope that more women will find more people in general, but I think that I really enjoy especially helping women to find that because women do have a lot of responsibilities with families and jobs and so on, and a lot of stressors, as everybody does. But it is one of my passions to help women to find that in photography, to help find that
Mm,
aspect of photography, and not just trying to take an award-winning photo, but
mm,
doing it more for yourself and
mm.
more for the healing effect of it. Um, so Robyn, tell us well, this safari is actually two different locations. We're going to start in the Okavango Delta, which Robyn spoke briefly about, and we're going to be camping in the Delta, which is something that I have never done. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I think it's going to really bring us closer to nature and really, really immerse us into our surroundings. So can you tell us a little bit about what you will be doing with us day to day? And also tell us maybe a little bit about the camp environment, and then we'll move on to the second part of the safari, which will be on the Chobe River.
Sure. So, yes, as you say, camping does bring you closer to nature, especially in Botswana, where the camping is, you're not in a very structured campsite with overhead lights and mown grass. And I mean, I've just been in sites like that elsewhere. It is very much that you feel like you're part of the wilderness around you. And and so, and the tents are um, generally they are 2 bed tents, but they're nice beds, lovely kind of linen and so on. Um, um, so and then the tents all have ensuite bathrooms. By bathrooms, I mean a shower and a long drop toilet, which is, I guess it's the closest thing to describe it to would be like a compost loo, where it's a or a pit latrine, but it's very nice smelling. It has a proper toilet seat, and it feels like a doesn't feel
Mm.
awkward or anything like that. And then, of course, tables and chairs. And then there's a communal area where we can gather to chat about what the photography or meditation exercises, or doing any kind of guided relaxations,
Mm.
things like that, and so on. And then also, I always find it very valuable to spend some time uh, in during soul safaris to what I might call sit in circles. So just time be to reflect on what is happening for me. So it's not necessarily a time for each of us to reflect on what's happening for us. So it's not necessarily a time to offer advice to anybody else or anything like that. It's just a kind of, okay, this is what I'm experiencing right now, because being witnessed through this slowing down and kind of becoming a little bit more live, actually, it brings it into a heightened kind of focus and has a deeper impact on what we are able to take back into our everyday lives afterwards, and so on.
Also take into the game drives that we'll be doing as well.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And that the game drives might not be as you say, sort of rushing after the biggest lion, or because I mean, you're as likely to, well, maybe not quite as likely, but there's a very big chance that you will encounter amazing, the sort of big five and so on, without rushing to where everybody else is going because there's something that's been spotted there and they want to just click away on cameras and so on. And so, we might find that we stop somewhere um, to observe an eagle that is hunting or something like that. And then while we're doing that, something very amazing happens in terms of a leopard coming past or something like that, that isn't um, that is almost like what happens on a soul safari is what's happening around us is very reflective of what's happening within us as well. And so once we slow down and really start sort of breathing deeply and becoming aware of our environment, the environment often becomes gentler and brings us magic, actually, magical kind of
Yes.
experiences and so on.
Yes, I've experienced that myself,
Mm,
that I
mm,
find that when I do slow down and really tune in, I feel as though wildlife comes to me.
yes. Mm,
And I
mm,
believe it does because I believe
mm,
I'm just open to it. So there is very much a correlation between being open and to all of these possibilities that nature has to offer, and having those opportunities put in front of you. I have seen that time and time again, and it's really something very special. And I'm sure
mm,
something that we will be experiencing on this safari as well.
mm,
Um, what can you tell us? I know for me, this will be, although I've been to Botswana, I've been to the Okavango Delta, this will be my first time camping, so I'm just wondering, what can you tell us about the camp experience and in particular safety during the camp? I know that there are some women, such as myself, that have never camped um, in a wildlife environment like that. What can you tell us about feeling safe while we are in the camp?
So, okay, so first of all, the tents are comfortable and they have an ensuite bathroom and loo. And so what we do is in the evenings we would be around a campfire. Um, and we have professional guides who are just ensuring that we are well looked after and safe and so on all the time. And then we would be walked to our tents at nighttime to when we go to sleep. And then my recommendation is that once you're in your tent with your ensuite bathroom, that you stay within that enclosed space until the following morning. Um, just because it's not really generally recommended that you would be walking outside in the middle of the night on your own um, in any of the campsites or lodges in Botswana at all, actually. And that's part of the beauty of it is this very intimate connection with nature and with what's going on, but at the same time, knowing that you have people there that are looking after you and ensuring that you're safe while you're doing it and so on. I mean, everybody's safety is our top priority, of course. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, and there will be professional guides staying with us at the camp, who are trained in obviously this type of thing. So um, it sounds like as long as nobody's walking around alone at night, that we're going to be absolutely safe.
Absolutely fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed. Yeah.
Great.
And
And you really don't get that anywhere else, at least that I've been in
mm,
Africa, where there's just lots of flowing water. And we're going to
mm,
talk about the Chobe River in a minute.
mm.
But that in itself is very, very healing. And then you add the element of fire, and the animals, and it's just a completely immersive experience. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Um, the
And just to add to that,
uh,
with the fire and the water, let's not forget the air, which is incredibly pure, and really you can feel it. You can feel the difference between air that is completely unpolluted, and the air that we think is normal in a more built up environment and so on.
yeah,
And then the earth as well. I mean, because um, in Botswana, a lot of the earth is desert sand, actually. It's also something rather lovely to walk barefoot on the earth and
um,
to really feel connected to all of the
yes,
elements. Yeah.
earthing is
Yes. Mm,
something
mm,
something that I do, just walking barefoot and just feeling the earth beneath your feet can
mm.
be very restorative.
Mm.
Will we be seeing any? I know the Delta has salt flats too, um, but that's in a different location, is it
That's a
not?
different location. That's
Yeah.
in the Makadi
Okay.
Kadi. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, it's in Botswana, but it's separate to the Delta,
Mm, mm,
and it's very beautiful. It's also much drier. It's dry. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but to my point, Botswana just has so many varied types of landscape,
mm,
and the like I said, with the water and the open savannas, and it's very different than Kenya. I think when a lot of people go on safaris, most people think of Kenya, and
mm,
Kenya is basically open savanna. Um, But Botswana has those, the Chobe River, and the Delta, which is full of water as well. Um, and these beautiful, beautiful red sunsets. And I think we have a couple pictures, if we could put those up. The sunsets reflecting against the water are incredible because the sky is red. And it's just very, very cool to see. And it's really it's awe-inspiring. Yeah, that's on the Chobe River, this photo. But that's just very typical of the kind of sunsets that you'll see. Um, so the next part of the trip is moving on to the Chobe River, and I think we could probably put up a photo of maybe the boat that we're going to be staying in, a houseboat um, on the Chobe River. So we'll move on from the Okavango Delta to Chobe via a very short flight. And we will be staying on a houseboat there and floating down the Chobe River, which in itself is a very, very peaceful experience. Um, we're going to be doing, of course, we'll still be doing the photography aspect. There will be two so-called game drives on the Chobe. I don't know if I'd really call it a game drive because we're in boats that are specially equipped for photography. So they will have gimbals and swivel seats so that you have access to both sides of the boat. One of the highlights of wildlife photography on the Chobe River is watching the elephants cross the river. It's really something everybody must see at least once. And we always try to get that at sunset with that beautiful pink or red sky behind them. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. The birds on the Chobe River, and we have a few bird photos too. The birds are spectacular. You're going to find bee eaters, all kinds of kingfishers. I've never seen so many kingfishers in my life on till I got to the Chobe River. There's several different kinds. This one up right now is a Malachite kingfisher. So we will be doing that twice a day. We'll be getting into our specially equipped photography boats and going for game drives of a few hours apiece. And then we'll be coming back to our lovely houseboat. And we are going to offer some yoga sessions on the deck of the boat. And then maybe Robyn, you could tell us, because Robyn is going to continue on with us and help us again with this soulful part of the safari. Um, Maybe you could tell us how you would be supporting us there, how you would be continuing what we've been doing in the Okavango Delta on the Chobe.
So I guess one of the, there's so many different options that we can weave into the time that we spend together on the boat. And it's lovely to have that quiet time to be able to go, okay, it feels like it'd be really wonderful to maybe explore the idea of uh, what is the symbolism of the animals that we're seeing around us, or something about doing a breath journey, or something about maybe working together with your own sort of animal totem or spirit animal that you really relate to quite deeply on a subconscious level, for instance. Or and so what we're doing is we're taking the wisdom of Mother Nature and we're bringing it into what we're discovering about ourselves. And so, I could say, oh, we're going to do this and this and this, but it's actually the 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 value of it is to be able to meet on the boat, to see what's arising for people, and then respond with the the exercises, I guess, or the investigations, the explorations that are most exciting for the group to do at the time. So that might be, okay, we need to just spend a bit of time really softening and slowing down and quietening and listening, doing kind of deep listening exercises and so on, and seeing what we learn about ourselves through listening. And we listen with all of our senses. So photography is a listening exercise as well, for instance. Or we might do some deeper investigation, a kind of a guided breath journey or something. Or we might do something of just listening to one another, and it's amazing what we can learn from one another. So instead of me being the expert who tells everybody what's going on, once we start actually tapping into the wisdom of everybody there, it's extraordinary what comes up and how empowering that is for everybody to really be a part of this uncovering of valuable insights for one another. Actually, does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
Mm.
think that the river lends itself to that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
it certainly does because we will literally be floating down a river.
Mm,
Um, and what's beautiful about both of these experiences is that, as I said in the camp, we're going to be immersed in nature. We're going to be very close in nature, and it's very likely that we'll see wildlife right outside of our camp. When we're in Chobe, floating down the river, we're going to be seeing wildlife all around us on the banks of the river, even when we're not out in our little photography boats. So there's just so much opportunity um, to really pay attention to these, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, what I would call little miracles, um, and really tune into them. And I like what you said about, the wisdom of animals. And for anybody that has ever studied animal totems, you know that animals do give us certain medicine and certain wisdom. And there's such a diverse population of wildlife there that there is so much to take in, not just with our cameras, but with our souls. And there's just so much to take in. Um, so I'm very much looking forward to this safari. And I also think that when you do this type of thing, all of our photography tours, I have to say, because we're women only, um, excuse me, are very much bonding experiences with other women. We have found that to be the case, that they come away just with new friendships, new relationships. But when you
mm,
do something like this together, where you're really exploring deeper and you're discussing about what's coming up for each person, it really is a very bonding experience. And that's just another aspect that I think that is going to make this one very special.
mm,
So the last time I looked, we actually only had 2 spaces left on this safari. So it is filling up. But I'm glad that we've had this discussion today because some I know were wondering what is this? What is a soul safari? And what
mm,
is it? And it is everything that we are doing everything that a photography safari is with all of the game drives and everything, but you're getting so much more. And a lot of people don't know about what mindful photography is, and it's really just an approach that emphasizes just being fully present, just being fully present. And I think if I had to wrap this all up into a nutshell, I would say that that's what we're going to be doing, is just being fully present in our moment and not being so focused on perfection and achieving the award-winning photograph, but just being fully aware of our environment and taking that medicine um, that will be very healing. And I think this it'll be especially healing for women that are going through very stressful situations. Women like myself that have anxiety are going to find this extremely healing. And it's just going to be a very, very peaceful, peaceful experience. So I want to thank you, Robyn, for joining us today. Is there any else that you feel like you want to add to
There's,
clarify some of what we'll be doing?
I think there's just one last thing I'd like to add, that came up for me when you were talking about what a soul safari means to you.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just this recognition that we're not calling it a spiritual safari, we're calling it a soul safari. And to me, there's quite a distinction between the two. So if I think of being spiritual, there's a kind of a sense of yearning for some kind of sublime experiences of deep sort of connection with God
Yeah,
as a being outside of this earthly realm, where a
right.
soul is kind of messy and imperfect and deeply connected. It's we're talking about that life force energy that that enlivens, that imbues, that actually kind of creates all of who we are and all of everything about us and so on. And when we start engaging with soul and soulfulness and so on, there's something about actually becoming alive and having this deep reverence and respect and honor for um, well, the natural world, but for ourselves and for one another, and for this kind of recognition that life isn't perfect and yet it's still beautiful at the same time. And
Mm.
that, for me, that's what a soul safari is about. It's about how do we explore um, that sense of, gosh, life is messy sometimes, and yet in the mess is where the beauty lies as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and the wildness.
Mm, yeah, it's breathtaking. And I think that women are going to come away feeling just completely rejuvenated and also with a new approach to the way that they view nature and the way that they approach their photography. Uh,
Mm.
I think it'll really be transformative. People have asked about the soul part of this safari. And for a lot of people, that's out of their comfort zone. They may not be familiar with that type of thing. Um, what do you have to say about that? I mean, I have been telling people that it is not mandatory, but that they certainly are going to get a lot more out of the safari if they do participate. But what's your experience with that in dealing with people that may be a little reserved about it at first and participating in these types of activities that will help them to slow down and become mindful of their environment? What do you have to say about that?
So I think that the most important aspect to creating a really soulful experience for people is just bringing a sense of ease into our everyday kind of uh, interactions, and a feeling of curiosity about one another, about our photography, about being present, and as you said, mindful uh, in our everyday kind of moment to moment experience on the safari, and so I know that the word soul can sound a little bit like, oh, I'm not familiar with that, or that's not something I've really explored before, um, but really I think that that what we end up doing is creating a sense of, maybe the word is camaraderie, or a sense of comfortable interaction between people, so that we can easily look at those parts of our lives that take us a little bit deeper, than our everyday uh, routine kind of interactions that might be um, almost sometimes slightly meaningless or something like that. And so for me, it's not so much about whether or not people will be uncomfortable, because generally some people might come feeling slightly uncomfortable. That seems to drop away really quickly. And then there's this sense of, okay, how do we establish as you said, it's like a bonding kind of interaction between everybody so that we can play actually with and investigate and explore photography, life, um, nature, being out in the wild, um, in a way that when you sum it up afterwards might be called soulful.
So, thank you again, Robyn. I'm really looking forward to spending time with you
So
in
am I
Botswana.
looking forward to
Yeah, I think this is going to
being with
be,
you and the group. Yeah,
yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really special experience, and I can hardly wait. I'm already counting down the days. So if anybody is interested in signing up for the safari, you can go to our website at womenandwildlifephotography.com, and you'll see it listed there, Botswana Soul Safari. And as I said, I believe there are just 2 spaces left. So grab it while you can. And we'll see you in Botswana. Thank you,
fantastic.
Robyn.
Such a pleasure. And just the last thing I want to say, it's going to
Sure.
be fun.
It is
Let's
going to
not
be
forget that
fun.
it's going to
It's
be fun.
absolutely going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be loads of fun. It's going to be
Uh,
a lot of fun for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks
Good.
again, Robyn.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Bye.
Bye.